Microsoft's pay packages for their engineers was recently just leaked. And you go from level 57, where you're in the high salary range of 95 to 124,000. I'm going to kind of just scroll through here really quick. You can kind of see it steadily increase, where the stock awards jump up from 15 to $120,000, signing bonuses, etc. It goes on for quite a while, and you can get to the really, really high levels. And I'm sure that this is just super high up. But they goes to level 70, where your main salary is 250 to 378. And it can go even higher than that. And then your stock awards, your on higher stock awards are 800K to 1.9 million. Annual stock awards are 1.0 to 1.4 million. I'm sure if like they hit certain benchmarks. Signing bonuses, I'm sure this is just where you're kind of seeing the crazy numbers, and then their annual bonus. So you see those crazy numbers, and then just to wrap it up here, I want to go ahead and share this graphic with you because I thought it was really crazy. There's this graphic that kind of depicts it. If you didn't invest your compensation, if you just worked at Microsoft, started from the ground floor and went up, you would generate a cumulative non-investment compensation of $4.2 million. Your annual compensation would come out to 2.1 million, I think. And then by year 30, and if you invested it, it would end up to 13 million. And you can kind of just see how fast that compounds. What is your take on engineers being replaced in general? Microsoft's hiring. What is your advice to people wanting to get into this field? How do you get into this field? What are your overall thoughts on the landscape of becoming an AI engineer? Sometimes they're referred to as researchers, and XAI actually just banned that term from within their company. And they said, we don't want to diminish the word engineer, so we only hire engineers. What's your take on the hiring landscape, and how do you get into it?
So first of all, if you're getting stock compensation from some crazy startup versus Microsoft, I think we started off talking about Microsoft looking where their market cap is and where their stock is. Their stock's extremely valuable. So like a stock offering from Microsoft is actually worth something, right? Engineers aren't going away. Like the irony to all this is where there's been this scare of, oh my gosh, we're gonna, AI is gonna replace developers. And I just was arguing with some dude in my comments last night who's like, you have no idea, 90% of engineers are gonna be gone by the end of next year. And I just laugh at this because Elon Musk, who's deploying the largest suite at the fastest of any H100s, still is paying almost $500,000 for an Android development position right now. They just posted that last week, $449,000 to be exact. You just went through the compensation. Most of those largest levels are being offered to AI engineers to be poached for the good ones. AI talent is absolutely in demand right now. And where you might see, and people show these charts all the time about, engineers, software engineers or software developers going down. The difference is what they're not seeing is the term AI engineer or something thereabouts, like you just mentioned, a handful of different titles to it. These have gone up 400 to 600% in number of listings. So a software engineer is just going by a different title now and becoming an AI engineer, right? We recently just hired an AI engineer that's been working in AI for 6 years. To put that in perspective, ChatGPT, really hit its big, upswing, or OpenAI, became the big thing 3 years ago, right? ML and AI has been around for a long time. This isn't new. And with this, so this engineering is not going away. And everybody who says it is, I just laugh. And I'm like, that's interesting, because I also get a lot of people in my comments who talk about that there are mainframe developers from the 60s still using Fortran, and they've been told for now 6 decades that they were going to be going away, right? And so there's just this technology that's never going to go away, and developers aren't going away. What you're going to see is AI is going to augment and enhance a software developer. So if you're a software developer, the number one thing you should be doing is digging in and learning AI. I hear a lot of developers who are like, oh, it just creates slop, we shouldn't even be using it. Yeah, but you need to learn how to program it. And that's what the biggest thing that I can encourage people right now. Tell all my devs all the time, AI is not going to replace you, but a developer who knows how to use it might.
Got it. It's funny when you're saying that a lot of people are like, oh, software developers are going to go away, but these companies that are wanting to get into AI, and it looks like unless you start adopting AI, you're just going to you're not as desirable for investors, not as desirable. You can't offer as good of a product as your competitor. Who's the first person a company calls when they want to start implementing AI, right? You're going to call
Software
a
developer.
software engineer. You're going to call a dev friend. You're going to figure out someone like, how can I get into this? Because you can't just plug in a chatbot to your company and expect something to change, right? So you talked about learning how to develop AI. Like, what does that mean? How, like, if I'm fresh out of high school or I'm wanting to go into college, you and I were talking on the phone just Sunday night. What are you seeing in the education landscape in terms of learning how to develop AI? What resources are you suggesting?
So that's a huge subject. We definitely just dive in and start writing code. That's the very first thing. Is there's honestly, like, it's fine if you even start learning to vibe code, but learn what it means. Don't use vibe coding as an excuse to be like, oh, I don't need a software developer. Maybe that's your way to dive in. Maybe you use AI to learn and to teach yourself. Maybe you join something like Startup Hacks Coding Bootcamp. Like, it doesn't matter, start somewhere. But the biggest thing we're seeing right now, people going after technology are not going into degrees. People with degrees are really struggling to hire right now, whereas people with experience are getting hired really fast. And so, and that kind of goes into, and I'll kind of leverage this into our next topic here, because if you don't think that software developers are in demand, you obviously aren't paying attention to the news, because it has been a massive Wild West land grab for people who know how to develop on AI. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg has been going after their huge super intelligence lab, right? And as he builds this super intelligence lab, he is poaching developers faster than you can say. I don't. It's going so quick. It's crazy.